Where do I start? Where do I begin? How do I...
So yeah, let's dive in. So for those of you who are live online, welcome. It's great to see you here today. And for those of you listening on the recording, I know a few people have asked for the recording. Welcome to you as well. Thank you for investing the time. So I wanted to talk about three things today. It was actually one of the things I want to talk about. I hadn't really planned to speak about. It was something that came up for me in a conversation today with a potential client, and it was something that I found in the front page of my son's school planner, and I thought it was such a powerful guide, a powerful recipe for living an amazing life, and I want to share that with you on this call. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Be the Coach program. I had some questions following last week's call. I'd mentioned it. One or two of you were interested in knowing a bit more, so I'm just going to share a little bit more about that today. But first of all, I want to dive in. When I talk about, by the way, can everybody hear me? Okay. It's funny because normally when I speak, there's a little blue loudspeaker appears on my picture, and there's no picture, there's nothing there. So if you can't hear me at any point in time, please just type into the box on the right-hand side. So when I talk about becoming successful as a coach, I talk about the 4 C's. The first one is conversations, how to create conversation, get into conversations. The second one is courage. It's having courage to speak your truth, to follow your intuition, to ask bold questions, to approach people who perhaps you wouldn't normally work with, people who might challenge you. So that's the second part, is having courage. After that, the third C is having clarity. It's having clarity about who you are as a coach, who inspires you as a client, the work that you want to do in the world, what your miracle might be. And the fourth one is having consistency. It's about showing up every day on a regular basis. And if it doesn't work for a week or a month, then try 6 months. Coaching, I think certainly the style of coaching I do, it takes time. It's a nurturing process. It's a farming process. And sometimes it takes time for the seeds to germinate. But you have to water the ground consistently. You know, there's that old saying of, you know, where's the grass greener? Well, it's not on the other side of the fence. The grass is greener where you water it. And that's what consistency is about. But today, what I want to do is, you know, the 4 C's sound very simple, very straightforward, but each of those have so many elements. And today, I specifically want to focus on some of the things I have learned around conversations. It's about the element, what I call the anatomy of a conversation. What makes a powerful coaching conversation? So I want to start off by saying, what's the difference between a conversation and a powerful conversation? And I think this is where, for quite a lot of new coaches, there's an interesting challenge. They have a circle of friends that they can connect with, a circle of people they want to connect with. Maybe people that they used to work with, their friends, their relatives, whatever it is. And the conversation might go something like this. Would you be open to have a chat? That would be great. Let's meet over coffee. And here's the challenge with that. It is a chat. It's something social over coffee. To me, a powerful conversation, something that becomes a coaching conversation, is something quite different. And to me, it's about intention. How do you set the intention of creating a coaching conversation? And so if someone said to me, I'm really interested about finding out about how you work. Can we meet over lunch or can we meet over coffee? It's very rare that I'll say yes. If it's someone that I know really well and I know I can manage that energy, then I might say yes. But typically, I wouldn't say yes. Typically, I might say something like, if you'd like to explore how I work, I'm really open to investing in you. Let's create some time for a powerful conversation. So even before we've started, I've started using language that might be a little bit different to what they're saying. So they might ask for a chat, they might ask for some time, and I'm already saying, this is a powerful conversation. I'm already saying, I'm prepared to invest 2 hours in you. I'm already saying, let's make it 2 hours. I'm also saying, let's find time in the diary. In fact, there's a very live example of that today. There's someone I used to work with, and I see her once every 6, 8, 9 months, not very often. And I hadn't actually seen her for over a year. And she emailed me and said, can we meet? Could she buy me lunch? And she hadn't asked anything other than buying me lunch. And so I went to meet her the other day. We had some coffee, and then we had some lunch. And over lunch, she said, actually, why I want to meet with you is there's a conversation that I want to have with you. And it feels very vulnerable for me, and I don't know how to have that conversation. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate the time we're having together, having lunch. For that conversation, that's not a conversation I would have at lunch or over coffee or in a hotel. I want to have that conversation in private. Can we create a space? Can we create 2 hours in your diary where it's just you and I in a room? So we can create a space for you to feel safe. So we can create a space for you to say what you need to say. So I'm using language which is different and perhaps unfamiliar for someone who doesn't know anything about coaching. So I'm creating a space. I'm making clear that it's not a chat. But also, if I'm talking with somebody, it may be simply a chat and an opportunity for coaching comes up. Maybe they ask me something or something emerges that makes me interested. I'm curious. I'm fascinated by an aspect of their life where I think I might be able to contribute. I think in that situation, in that context, what turns it into a powerful conversation is permission. I may say to that person, would you be open to a coaching question? Would you be open to me exploring that with you because I'm curious? So I may ask their permission to dive deeper by asking them questions. Is it okay if I ask you a question about that? So I think the very first step of taking a chat or a connection or a social relationship into a coaching conversation is making a powerful statement of intent. I also want to say something about when I talk about 2 hours. When I started coaching, I used to do I don't know what people call them nowadays, strategy calls or introductory calls, whatever you want to call them. I used to do 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And I would rush in and I would try and make something happen in that time and then hope I would create a coaching client. I was challenged to make that 2 hours. And at first, I was terrified of that. I thought to myself, I have no idea what I can do for 2 hours. And then relatively early on, when I was taking 2 hours, I remember speaking to a lady. I'll be open. For the first hour, I sat and listened, and I thought, I have no interest in serving this person. I feel no connection. I feel overwhelmed by what they're sharing with me. And I've promised to invest 2 hours. I'll stay for 2 hours, but that's really it. After 1 3/4 hours, I was resolved that I would never work with this person. But what was interesting was, at 1 hour and 45 minutes, they said to me, I have found this really useful. How much do you charge? Now, I'll come back to this, but I would never normally say any answer to that question at this time. At this time, I would normally say, I'm only interested in serving you. Let's explore working together further before we talk about money or proposals or anything. And I just came out with a number. I came out with a big number because I thought if I just say the number, then she probably won't want to pay that based on the call we've had today, and it'll come to an end. So I said it partly as a way of me saying no to her. And so she digested that and spoke about whether she could afford that and what else she was doing in her life. And the call kind of dissipated. And then we got to 2 hours. What was fascinating is that I think up to the point where I'd made a proposal, she had felt some energy around that might have come at some point. Once she'd got that out of the way, she started to shift. And literally, as we got to the 2 hour mark, she really opened up into her vulnerability. And we actually went for another 30 minutes. And it was life-changing. And at the end of that 30 minutes, I completely loved this person. It was so amazing what opened up in that conversation. And if I had had that conversation for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, that would never have happened. Having had that experience, I then felt really motivated to make every call at least 2 hours. And what I discovered then was that it gave people the time to unfold. It enabled the space to open up more powerfully, a deeper rapport to be built, a deeper connection. And in that second hour, magic really started to happen. So to me, putting aside that 2 hours makes it much more of a chat and creates this space for it to be a powerful coaching conversation. That's the first thing, is how you create that initial conversation. I think the second thing is, how do you turn one conversation into a number of conversations? It's a question that comes up so often. Quite often I hear a coach say to me, I really make a big difference. I have a conversation with someone, it's amazing, it changes their life, and they tell me it's amazing and they never come back. Well, from my perspective, if I really changed someone's life in one call, I'd be very surprised if I never heard from them again. It's possible, but on a consistent basis, it's unlikely. So first of all, being courageous in that first call, speaking your truth, diving in as deep as you can, as deep as you dare on that first call, that's one way of creating a second call. I think the second way is what I call the second step. In the film Man on Wire, where I can't remember the guy's name, but when he talked about stepping out, he said, when I put my first foot on the wire, I can still, my back foot is still on the building. But when I take my second step, I'm now out there. And to me, that's a little bit like the coaching conversation. How do you get the second step? And I spoke about this on the last call. To me, it's about being completely present with the client's experience, and as they have those little moments of breakthroughs and ahas, it's immediately digging in with them. What becomes possible for you? What are you going to do at the end of this call to test that? What are you going to do now that you know you can do that? And all the way through that first call, there'll be opportunities to identify possibilities and actions during the call. And then at the very end, I'll summarize on the 2, 3, or 4 things that they promised to do, that they said they were going to do, and I'll recheck their commitment. And if they're committed and they're saying they're absolutely going to do those things, would it be useful? Would you find it valuable if we had another call in 2 weeks and we can check in to see how that went, to see what you learned from that? It's very rare that a potential client says no. And that creates a second call. And the same thing on the third call, to create the third call. And I may have 3, 4, or 5, 6 conversations with someone before we explore the possibility of coaching together. So another question that comes up about coaching conversations is, what is a powerful coaching question? So I want to share with you, and I don't hide this because I think that some of you will have spoken to Rich. I mean, I work with Rich Litvin on a regular basis. And I've been working with Rich on and off for about 18 months. And he often starts his coaching conversations with a powerful question. And I have to say, it works for me too. And it's one that I've stolen and I love. Often the very first thing I will say when we sit down and we create a space together is, what will make this conversation so extraordinary you will never forget it? What will make our time together today extraordinary? It could change everything for you. I think that as a start point opens up every possibility. Another question that I use, and one that perhaps I'll have a whole call about later, because it was such a powerful shift for me, and it's really informed the work I have done over the last 9 months, some of the greatest work that I've done over the last 9 months, and some of the people who have experienced that are on this call. One of the questions that really impacted me as a coach, and certainly impacted some of the people I work with, is this. I may start a conversation with, What would be a miracle for you? Because sometimes when we go to a coach, we want to explore what our goals are. And to me, goals are the things that you can see on the horizon. What is so far over the horizon, you dare not even imagine it? Or maybe it's something that you've buried so deep inside because you're afraid to say it out loud. What's that? Because that could just be the miracle you're looking for. So I might ask a question like that. So to me, they're questions that open up a space and create a powerful sense of possibility. Beyond that, who knows what a powerful question is? There are so many different questions that show up. What's missing? What's left unfinished? What becomes possible with that thought? And yet, some of the most powerful and transformational questions I've ever asked have been questions that have just happened in the moment. And I'm going to share one with you, and I hope you're not too sensitive in terms of language here, but I want to share this as an example of a question that happened about 6 minutes into a coaching call with a regular client I had at the time. And it changed everything. We started the call and she asked me about how she could become more present as a speaker, how she could be seen to be more present, making YouTube videos. And she was hiding. And that gives you just a tiny two-dimensional idea of the context. But as she was talking about this and as I felt her energy, the question that came to me completely intuitively, and before I could consciously think about it, it came out of my mouth. I said to her very directly, 6 minutes into that coaching conversation, I said, "Do you worry about your hair when you fuck?" Now, to many people, that is a completely outrageous thing to say. Now, the context I put around this is we had already been working together for several months. We had a deep rapport and a deep connection. And I said that to her and she stopped. There was silence at the end of the phone. Now, a little part of me was thinking, okay, I might have just really offended her. A part of me was confident that when you get that silence, you know that you've asked a question that creates a shift. And she sat with that for a few minutes and then said, "I get it. We're complete for today." And the call ended. And after that, she made some amazing videos where she was really present. So there's no coaching book, there's no coaching course that will tell you that's a powerful question. It was purely intuitive. Sometimes when I talk about intuition, I don't claim to be an intuitive coach or an intuitive leader. However, what I do know is that there are times when I pay attention to what's showing up for me, that it's often what's showing up for the client. So I was working with a client and I started to feel this real tension in my stomach, in my belly. And so I said that out loud. I said, I just want to bring attention or bring forward the fact that I'm feeling a really tense feeling in my belly. And actually it feels attached to an intense sadness. And they said, "Yeah, that's exactly how I feel at the moment." And so I was reflecting their energy on the call. So sometimes trust your intuition, and it might be the smallest feelings inside. It might be a tightness in your throat. It might be a tension in your belly, or your foot's twitching, or you're getting bored. You know, this might seem a little outrageous. Sometimes I might be coaching somebody, and I'm sure that some people I've coached are on this call who might be thinking, "Oh, I wonder if that was me." Sometimes you might be coaching somebody and you feel a bit bored. What if you said that to your client? "Hey, I'm feeling a bit bored." That would be a powerful showstopper. It may be because they're not present in the conversation either. It may be because they need to be called out to be present in who they are. So a conversation, a powerful coaching conversation, is paying attention to everything. It's bringing everything forward that you dare. It's being deeply courageous. And if that outrageous question pops up in your mind, what if you asked it? Because what's the worst that could happen? So that's developing a powerful conversation. I think the next piece for me is how does a powerful conversation turn into a potential client? And I want to talk here about a couple of things. I want to talk about what makes a great conversation a potential client, but I also want to talk about 2 or 3 of the things that can get in the way of conversations being powerful. So one of the things that gets in the way of a conversation being powerful is something called role reversal. I'm sure that some of you will have experienced this. Some of you may be deeply aware of this already. Role reversal is where you have a client and it usually starts quite early on in the relationship. They'll call you and say, I know we've put aside 3 o'clock today. Is it possible we can move it to 3:30? And then they call the next week. I know I said I would do that commitment, but the dog ate my homework. And by the way, I know we're going to speak at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Can we actually shift that to 1 o'clock, or can we do it this afternoon at 5? They start to try and take control. And that's role reversal. What they're doing is they're coming into the conversation with a degree of uncertainty. And so they're trying to create certainty by taking control. If you allow them to do that, it'll become increasingly harder to coach them. Role reversal can show up in so many ways. It can be incredibly subtle. And yet it's a powerful shift in energy from the coach, that's you, to the client. It may show up as on a call, they may start asking you questions. And it's not to say that a client can never ask me a question, but sometimes the question, you just feel there's an energy in it and you think, I'm just curious as to why they're asking that. That's probably role reversal. So first of all, when role reversal shows up, be conscious of it and be aware that you as a coach control the conversation. And so if a client more than once wants to change the time of the conversation, then I'll probably say no. If you can't make it tomorrow at 1 o'clock, then we'll miss our call this week. We can reschedule for next week. A second piece, and I really talked about being courageous, being daring, being present to your intuition and what shows up. A second piece is about serving, not pleasing. I'm completely open to the fact that there are still times when I work with powerful people that I'm conscious about, if I say that, what will they think of me? If I say that, will they be less likely to refer me? Will they be less likely to renew? And so I go into a mode of pleasing them. And pleasing them doesn't serve them, because pleasing them is all about me. It's all about how I feel. It's all about me not leading into my edge. Serving them is being entirely focused on what will help them transform, irrespective of what my needs are. Serving, not pleasing, is a powerful shift. Great coaches spend almost all of their time in that mode of serving. Another piece which I am very conscious of, I had a call, and actually I shared my vulnerability around it. I had a call with someone a few weeks ago, and they asked me a question. They were asking about a way that I work. And so I started to tell them about my references and about my programs and about who I worked with and about how I showed up and what I charged and what people said about me. And at the end of that call, I could tell they were so less enrolled than they were at the start of that call. And I actually wrote to them and said, what I don't want you to know about me is that was terrible. I was a talking brochure. So especially when you get near the proposal stage, be really conscious of becoming a talking brochure. They can get it from your website. Stay curious, stay in the conversation. So there's some of the things, there's 1 or 2 of the things. There are many, many more we can cover, but they're 1 or 2 of the things I just wanted to pick out that really get in the way of a powerful conversation. So what turns a powerful conversation into a potential client? I think when you've spoken with someone deeply, 2 hours at a time, maybe for 2 or 3 times, you have a sense of they want more. They have a sense of they're getting value from coaching. They're perhaps giving you feedback. This is great. I'm really appreciate this time we're spending together. Wow, that call we had last time was really powerful. You might want to start exploring with them this question. I wonder what would be possible for you if you had a coach? I mean, it's clearly a loaded question, but if you've got deep rapport with them and they're finding real value in your work, then it'll be a really easy question to ask. And in fact, quite often they'll be wanting that question because they may not know, because if they work with other coaches, they know there's kind of a 1 hour strategy session, then they have to pay. With this approach, and this may not be your approach, but certainly the approach I take, when I make those investments of call after call after call until we get to that right point, they may not know how to ask to turn that into a relationship, a paid relationship. Now, of course, another way a powerful conversation becomes a potential client is they say that. They say, hey, I'd love to start paying you for this. Sometimes I'll say, I'm really pleased you asked that. I'm really flattered and I love this work we're doing together. Let's just focus on you for the moment. We can talk about that later. Because if I don't feel they're ready, I don't want to go too early. And they may ask 2 or 3 times, and then I may make a proposal. But sometimes I work with people, and there's never been a question, there's never been a conversation that says, can we turn this into a relationship? But I then may ask them, what might become possible for you if you had a coach? It's a very simple question. If someone's asked to work with me, I may say to them, I'm not sure if we're ready to work together, but I'd like you to do this piece of homework. I'd like you to write 3 reasons or 3 possibilities that would be open to you if you had me as your coach. So not just saying, are you open to coaching? It's saying, what would become possible for you if I was your coach? Because each of you coaching a relationship is unique. And again, that opens up the possibility of a proposal happening. So that is how a conversation leads to a potential client. How do you turn a potential client into a paying client? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this idea I have of potential energy. I think when there's a powerful conversation, when you serve someone as deeply as you dare, as deeply as you can, one of the reasons why that person may want you as a coach is that you have an energy level which is higher than theirs. Some people call it vibration, some people call it frequency, some people call it energy. I call it potential difference. There's a potential difference between them and me. It's not a distance. We're deeply connected, but there's an energy level that I have that they want to tap into. That's why they want to work with me as a coach. One of the reasons why I bring attention to this is that for many people in coaching, the toughest bit of the conversation is when you make your proposal and you share your fee. And what happens is we get to that point and our mouths go dry and we get butterflies in our stomach and we get a little tremble in our fingers and the sweaty palms because we're going to say a big number or something to the client, and we get a little nervous. What happens is when we do that, our energy level starts to fall. And if our energy level or our vibration, whatever you want to call it, if it starts to fall and it falls below the energy level of the client, then there'll be an unconscious signal for them not to buy from you. They won't know why. It will be deeply unconscious. You won't know why. What's gone great for maybe 6, 8, 10 hours of coaching suddenly becomes someone who is not a client. And you just don't know why. And neither do they. They're probably as confused as you are. To me, I feel it's this dimension of potential energy. It's keep your energy high. Stay in the energy that you've created for them. That deeply present, intense experience you've created for them. Stay in that space. And to stay in that space, you need to practice making your proposal. When you finally get to that point where you feel they're ready, they've acknowledged significant transformation. They may be asking to continue with you. They may have asked to coach with you 2 or 3 times. You'll say, I think we should talk about working together. I would like to continue coaching with you. Working with me, we work together for 6 months. We have 3 calls a month. In between those calls, you can contact me anytime you like. Cost is X. Now, you say all those things, and then I would say something like, but here's what I'm curious about. What are you prepared to commit to make this successful? This is about so much more than money and 3 calls a month. What are you prepared to commit to this relationship? So I will continue coaching them even after I make the proposal. Once I've done that, and I've allowed 15 or 20 minutes after that proposal time, so I can continue to coach them, I might then ask them for a commitment. I might then say to them, what I want from you is a hell no or a hell yes. I'm going to write to you, and you're going to write back to me with a hell no or a hell yes. If you are a hell yes, you are going to write down 10 ways you're going to commit to make this a powerful relationship, or 3 possibilities you're going to get from coaching. I don't really mind what it is, but I'm asking them to make a commitment. I'm asking them to opt into that process. So that's what I would define as the anatomy of the conversation. And some of the things I've just skimmed over would be an hour or 2 hours in their own right. We could talk about role reversal. We could talk about serving, not pleasing, for a whole hour in itself. So every time I'm talking about something, we can always dive deeper. We can always go further. So create a conversation, make it explicit. It's not a chat. Set an intention that it's a powerful conversation. Create a space for it. Create a time in the diary for it. Create a physical space that's going to be private. It could be a private room. It could be walking on the moors. It could be sitting in the garden, whatever's right for your client. Always ask permission, especially when you want to go deep. Think about how you turn one conversation into many conversations. Think about getting to that stage of turning a powerful conversation into a potential client. And then when you have that potential client, how do you turn them into a paying client? Make your proposal and stay curious. Stay coaching. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about a program that starts next week. There are still a few spots left. We've got some great coaches signed up, some very experienced coaches, a couple of new starting coaches. But the program is going to be this. What I've been sharing in the call last week, what I've been sharing with you today, is what I'm absolutely passionate about. It's something which has transformed my life as a coach. And I'm so passionate about sharing what I have learned, but also learning from others and refining it and continually refining it and doing that as a group. So I created Be the Coach, and I wanted to create it to be as inclusive as possible. So we'll be working with 80 to 20 coaches for 9 months. And the way we're going to work is we're going to have 2 calls a month. There'll be one call where I'll be sharing some content like this, maybe a deep dive into serving or a deep dive into creating that first conversation. And that call will also include some live coaching. And then there'll be a second call where it'll be focused on Q&A, check-ins, and live coaching. But more importantly, in between whiles, there's going to be a group, a private group, a secret group, where all the coaches in the group, including me, will effectively be your virtual board of directors. There'll be a weekly board report where you can check in. It's where you can check in terms of what are you learning? Where are you leaning in? How are you facing your fears? What fears are showing up for you? How are you committing to grow? What you can share with the group as a celebration. What specific challenge in a conversation or a coaching client might be showing up for you? It's a space where each week you can bring those things to the group. And to me, that's the real power of it. In the groups I'm running at the moment, that's probably the most powerful part of it. It's not the weekly calls we're having. It's the connection that tribe is creating together in having that virtual board of directors. I mean, one of the things about being a coach, it's a lonely business at times. How do we know where we are? How do we calibrate? How do we check in? Who do we refer to when we're stuck? So one of the outcomes of the Be the Coach program is to create that community. And over the 9 months, it's about spending some time in that initial phase of loving the person in front of you, creating deep rapport, creating relationships, building a platform of conversations, building a critical mass of conversations. The second step is, how do you serve deeper and deeper into those conversations? What can you learn about creating more there? And then the final phase is, what can you create beyond that? If you knew everything that you needed to know, if you were able to do everything you were able to do, what platform would that create for the next level? What would go beyond your current dream of your coaching business today? That's what we want to do in the third phase, is create that next step for you. So that's what the program's about. And actually, I'm hoping that Natasha's still there. Yes, Natasha's still there. I'm just going to, it's slightly randomly, because I did say to Natasha I might do this. I'm just going to invite you in for a couple of things. One of the things I haven't mentioned actually in the group is, in addition to the Be the Coach work that we're going to do, I recently appointed Natasha as my Chief Wow Officer. Someone who's going to help me increase my voice in the marketplace, increase my presence in the market. So Natasha's given me some fantastic advice on how to do that. But what I've asked Natasha to do is to actually work with each of you in how to position your personal branding. And I think some of you have already had that call with Natasha. So it's, how do you create a personal brand? And I'm going to also invite Natasha to run a couple of additional calls for the group in terms of how to do that. And it's not about websites and marketing, although that, and LinkedIn, although that might come up for you. It's really tailored to each of you in terms of how to create your personal brand. So one thing I'm going to ask Natasha is to spend a minute talking about that. But also Natasha is here, not because of that, she's here because Natasha is a client of mine. And she's also in one of my current groups, the Tribe of Miracles. So I'm just going to ask Natasha to speak for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, on what you've got from the Tribe of Miracles and how it works. And also to spend, say, a minute talking about the branding dimension of Be the Coach. So I'll let you decide what you want to do first, Natasha, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello. So I'd like to talk about the tribe first of all. So I joined the tribe. I can't actually remember. It feels like we've been together forever actually now. So I keep thinking, was it January? Was it February? Was it March? But we first set out on the journey of the Tribe of Miracles. And when I joined that program, I was really unclear as to what I would, what would happen, what would be an outcome. It was kind of a journey that was an unknown. And I think that was, not wanting to speak for everyone, but I think that was very similar for all of us, that we didn't actually really know what we were getting ourselves into. And through the weekly calls, and definitely, as David says, through the Facebook group, gradually gaining momentum as we've gone through and gotten to know each other better, we literally have created a family. It's deeper than a tribe. The connections that we've made, the things that we've been able to share, the support that we've been able to give to each other has propelled us all in different ways. And for me personally, I've gone from being somebody who was really, really unsure of my own value, really unsure of what I had to offer as a coach, never mind even the miracle part of it, but even as a coach. And through that journey, I can just feel how I've changed, literally week by week, as we've explored different topics within the call. I've been able to find more and more of myself, and I've been able to share that part of myself with the people that I'm having conversations with. And it's opened up my world to the point where I was like writing personal letters to Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Facebook, and other such people, which I would never ever have dreamed of before. But that creating, David talked about before, considering what is possible and what we can do if we just consider what seemingly is impossible and go for it, has been amazing. But the biggest part for me is definitely the connections with the group and the powerful friendships that we have created now, and we know that we're going to collaborating, we're supporting each other, we're getting involved in each other's projects now even. So that's been incredible. So from a program perspective, I can't speak highly enough of it, and having been to 3 of the live events as well, you just know when you're at home. So that's been great for me. On the personal branding level, I don't really know what to say. I do feel slightly the spot with that one. But what I say is that I've had conversations with a few of the people who are all signed up for the Be the Coach Today program. And in each of those conversations, the idea for me was just to explore and to hear people talk to me about who they were, and in some ways be able to pick out and join the dots in the elements of themselves that they maybe didn't realise were powerful, and reflect that back for them so that they could start to join some of the dots together themselves as well, and see themselves in a different way, or amplify what was already there. So, you know, they haven't actually been coaching conversations as such. They're exploring who you are and how your voice can be heard, and what your tone of voice is, how you want to be seen, and gaining a natural flow between who you are online, in person, in print, every facet, making sure that there's consistency and that that's all flowing. So that's how I would love to be supporting anybody on the Be the Coach Today program, to pull it all out from you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And Natasha, as well as supporting the program, is also participating in the program. So having already been in one of my groups, she's committed to be in another group. Sue Bowden's online as well, and she's done the same thing. She's committed to be part of Be the Coach. And I don't know if Amanda, I'm going to put Amanda entirely on the spot. Are you there, Amanda?
I'm here. Hi.
Hi. I think you've already had your conversation with Natasha, haven't you, about the personal branding dimension?
I did.
Would you care to share 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, it was the one thing that I remember was she was able to, I wish I could remember exactly how she phrased it, because I was so present in the call that I wrote nothing down. And as soon as I finished the call, I said, oh my God, I'm going to find awesome phrases. But the one thing that stood out to me was I was so focused on being kind of I guess you could say, fitting in a box or staying on as a certain label in a way. And not just as coaching, but in different aspects of my life. So a good example was I love raw food. I enjoy fruit, vegetables, everything. But I still eat cooked food sometimes. And I have so many friends who are raw foodists. I don't like posting what I do on my page, because if I go out and have dinner and have a piece of chicken or fish, I'd feel guilty because I'm like, I'm turning against all the raw food. But in actuality, it's just me. And it kind of overlapped into how I was looking at the coaching too. So it helped me just kind of expand and just be myself instead of trying to put everything into little boxes and bring all of that together. And there was a beautiful phrase that she came up with, and Natasha is still there or can talk. I don't know if she remembers, but I cannot remember for the life of me, and I actually meant to message her because it brought everything together, and it was just my aha moment of how I kind of see the world, like with diversity and just embracing so many different things. So that was really, it redefined not even who my client was, but who I am. So it was an amazing call.
Thank you, Amanda. And thank you for allowing me to put you on the spot.
Sure, I wasn't ready for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to bring something out that Amanda talks about that is really at the heart of the work that I do, of what this program is going to be about, of what these calls are about. I'm not here to give you a prescription on how to do coaching. There are plenty of coaching programs out in the world that teach you how to do coaching. The work that I do, the work that I really focus on, that inspires me, is how to be a coach. It's who you're being. And I think Amanda just touched on that. That, in the conversation with Natasha, it's identifying there might be some incongruences in who you're being. And when there are incongruences in who you're being as a person, there may be incongruences in who you're being as a coach. And that's what this work is about. I think that the group that Natasha's in, there is so much work we're doing. Whilst we set out to create miracles, 90% of it is who we're being as a whole person. And Natasha might be speaking on behalf. But when I first connected with Natasha, Natasha had come out of corporate life, and I think that one of the challenges was how to get clients. I think Natasha's challenge now is how does she create time? Because she's created so many clients, she's created so much work around who she's being and what she's doing in the world, how she's showing up, the work as a coach, the work as a PR advisor, the work that she wants to empower young teenage women. Now, time is the crucial resource. And that's such a massive shift in who she is being. And I'm inspired to work with people who want to do that. Amanda and Natasha and Sue are on this call. Gianni, some of you who I don't know yet. So I invite you that if this interests you, if you want to come on this journey, I've put the link in the little comments box on the right hand side, that there are a few spots left. The first call, I think, is next Tuesday. So there's a few days, literally, to decide, to apply, to decide if this is for you. And it may be and it may not be. And that either of those are fine. And yet, this is what I'm passionate about. And if you choose to be on this journey, I'm excited. I would be thrilled to welcome you in. So I promised 3 things on this call. I promised a powerful recipe that I got from my son's school planner. I promised to share with you about the anatomy of conversation, that we've gone deeper, a lot deeper than I did on the last call. And yet in some areas, just starting to scratch the surface. Just before I finish up with that life recipe, are there any questions that you have? I'm happy to open the call up and see if it's not too noisy. Or you can type them into the box on the right-hand side. But I'll open to, is there any questions? Anyone would like to know anything? Any questions about conversations, about the program? I'm happy to take a question now. If we're all good or you're too shy, I'm happy to share with you what I learned from my son, and we can go there. So thank you all for spending the time today. But this is what I got from my son's school. He goes to a school in York called Bootham School, and it's a Quaker school. There's no requirement to be a Quaker to go there. It's simply a school that's founded on Quaker principles. And in the front of his book, his day planner, and this is he's 9 years old, he's in junior school. On the inside cover, there are these statements. It says, Quaker statements. Live adventurously. Let your light speak. Walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of God and everyone. Be open to the light from wherever it may come. Always consider that you may be mistaken. And there are 5 testimonies that they're asked to sign up to. Simplicity, truth, equality, peace, and stewardship. And when I read those, I find it incredibly moving. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I find that incredibly moving. Because to me, I cannot think of a more powerful recipe for life, a more powerful recipe for being the most powerful coach you can be. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for spending the time. Have an amazing day. And if you would like to join us for the next 9 months, I'd be thrilled to hear from you. Thank you so much. I'm going to say open up, say bye-bye for now, and loving you all. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.